Hey, brother.
What's up, Dad's family? What's up, Josh? Nothing? No response? Not gonna say nothing? Okay.
I said, what's up?
No, you didn't. You said nothing. Just ignoring me.
That's okay.
So today, we got an awesome episode. So we're here
Yes.
with and get to learn from Steven Burke, also known as Smiling Steve, an online marketer for over 25 years. He's got some experience in the house.
Yes.
So Steve launched his first website in 1996, the second website in 1997, and has been an online marketer ever since. So Steve knew that he wanted to be a great provider for his family, like most of everybody here does, right? And the end result of his mad pursuit to learn about marketing and making money ended up becoming a master. So from writing, selling scripts to headlines for ads to designing websites, Steve has been mentoring people in sales and entrepreneurship for decades. So we are super stoked to have him on this episode today. But before we jump in, we're your hosts. I'm Kyle. This is Josh. And before we get going, if you find value out of these interviews and these clips and these episodes that we do, give us a subscribe, drop us some hearts on, and leave us a comment, and that will really help us grow the channel. Right there.
Over there.
Right. So let's jump in. Let's bring Steve on.
Yeah, here he comes. There we go.
Hello.
And we're gonna.
Thanks for being here, man.
Guys.
Yeah, my pleasure. Thanks for inviting me. I'm happy to be here.
Yeah, absolutely.
Awesome.
No, that's awesome, and we're super stoked because obviously we love having people on here that are entrepreneurs that especially in the online marketing world, but it's not very often we get to have somebody on here who has the level of experience that you have in terms of the years that you've been doing this. I mean, starting your first website back in the 90s, kind of before the big web boom, in the 2000s. And so it's pretty cool for that. So we appreciate you taking time out of your busy schedule to be on here with us and, share us a little bit about your story. And so why don't we go ahead and, let you take some time and introduce yourself.
Sure. Well, the first thing I want to do is get everybody to excuse me for not looking businesslike. But then again, I haven't had a job since 1996. So
there you go.
My tie
I love it.
has gone the way of the dodo.
I like it.
So, yeah. Hey, listen, guys, the Internet Archive started in 1996. In case you don't know.
Usually I don't even have a button down or anything like this on, man, so don't worry about it.
Yeah. I was going to say that the Internet Archive started in 1996. So anybody can go to the Wayback Machine and look at anything that anyone's ever done online. So it's absolutely impossible to bullshit anyone about your experience.
Yep.
So the Wayback Machine at archive.org's got my first website on it, complete with the HTML errors that stopped part of it from being scanned way back when. And awesome. I mean, before content management systems existed, like WordPress, we had to hard code our HTML when we wanted to post.
Yep.
And so back then we did more email marketing than posting on a website because it was just such a pain in the ass to write the HTML code and get whatever it is you had written in Microsoft Word or whatever you were editing it in up and online. So yeah, the world's changed a little bit since the late 90s.
I'd say. I mean, even from my experience, right, is, the late 90s was dial up and, forums, right? That was a thing, people don't remember that, but you didn't have Facebook and other social media. You had forums that you would just message on, you'd post something and you'd hope that somebody would respond in, 15, 20, maybe 30 minutes.
Nobody knows what a BBS is anymore.
No, they don't.
What you call a forum, a bulletin board system.
Yep.
For me, I had a fax on demand system in the 90s. We had an email server in 2001. Get this, our email server cranked 1 million emails an hour.
Wow.
we did massive email marketing. Then a lot of email marketers ended up getting absolutely whacked by the FTC in the United States, including some people that I'm friends with.
I could imagine.
Didn't get us, but I got sued for sending faxes by this guy in Oklahoma. And so my history is interesting.
Sounds like it.
And and I built a massive database, and I had 1.5 million opt-ins by 2006. And there barely was even social media at that point.
Yeah. That's when I started my Facebook, was 2006.
Yeah, same here. I started in 2006. And, I haven't really done much on Facebook, to be honest. And I still build my database. I got 32 million in it right now.
That's awesome.
So, like nobody even is in the list business anymore. It's dead.
And that's something that's interesting too, is what I've learned, and one of the things that I preach to my students is I say, you got to build an email list. And people go, email marketing's dead. And I'm like, no, email marketing is not dead. Now, it's not as effective as it used to be, but it still is effective, and it still has a place.
Yeah, there's a guy that owns one of the SMS server systems where you get people to opt in. So they text a number and it auto opts them in. And he talks about when he's going to send out his email list, he sends a text message to everybody on it. And he increases the open rate by, get this, 2,500%.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's
pretty
crazy.
significant.
I'm not surprised by that. I mean, SMS is brilliant. You get them to opt in the proper way. Your phone's right here,
Right
here.
Well, people read their phone, their text messages in 3 minutes.
Yep.
Right now, we're lucky if we can get 3% of people to open our emails, and it's not quite that bad, but I'm over exaggerating it. It's bad though.
Yeah. I mean, before I'll be honest, before I learned how important list segmentation and hygiene and stuff like that was, open rates were 4, 5, 6%. But then when you start learning to, really only send your normal emails to like the people that open your emails, and send, the random holiday email or whatever to everybody to kind of pull them back in, that's the kind of stuff. Like once you learn those things, the opt-in rates or the open rates can get a little bit better, which now, of course, we deal with things like iOS 15 and different maskings and whatever. But so that's, I mean, there's a lot of truth there. And that's really cool to hear, like, just where you started with that and the fact that you've carried that on through all these years.
Yeah. Like, just to give you some real weirdness, because people who know that I'm a high tech guy will be like, what, really? Like, I think I closed the file. I sent 500 and some odd text messages today.
Nice.
So it doesn't sound like a lot, but I booked 8 appointments off of that.
Yeah.
Now,
I mean, that's crazy.
Yeah. Like, what do most of the people in the most people in the direct selling industry don't get 8 appointments a week, never mind in an hour and a half of sending text messages.
Right.
So most of the world is, not really as hip as, these gurus that are out there are not really as dialed in as they pretend to be. And like, for instance, if I was running ad campaigns online, I wouldn't be targeting people in direct sales. I'd be targeting people in my own city.
Yep.
Okay. And that's not what the gurus are selling courses. They're teaching people.
Well, of course not.
Yeah.
Because that's not something that's actually easy to teach, right? You got to know what to say and how to say it. And you got to be able to, pull at those emotional strings for the people in your local area, because you've got to know what's going on to be able to touch those points and say, hey, you, Mr. Guy that's down the road that can't afford to take care of his lawn, I bet you could use an extra $100 a month. or $100 a week or 1,000 a month or whatever it is, like all those little things that about your community. They don't want to teach that stuff because you have to teach people how to be aware. And none of these gurus want to do that, right? They all just want to be out there to make money. And so they say, hey, just go target all the direct selling companies and send them ads and tell them you can help them build their business online. And they'll come flocking in. And they do. And then they find out what it really is. And they go, nah.
Okay, now we got to teach you how to write ad copy and run funnel systems, and and by the way, we're going to sell you an overpriced funnel as well.
Yep. Yeah. I've been there. I went down that road, and it's not a pretty place to be, but when you learn the truth, you don't have your own course to sell. Don't worry. You can use ours. Right. Meanwhile, anybody in the direct selling industry has seen it about 60 times already. Right. For sure.
Yeah.
Like nothing new here.
What tell us a little bit about like how you came to like starting your own website and stuff. Like what interested you in getting into that realm of work of entrepreneurship?
Well, Josh, we have a mutual friend who's got about 40 books on Amazon, a prolific author who's in the middle of writing another book right now.
I heard.
And he's understood something that you've already touched on, that there's a certain segment of your list that will pretty much eat up everything you put out. Maybe 20%. For some people, it may be a little smaller than that. And I'm sure you're following David Goffram and some other people. And, look, Tom wrote about how to run a self-funding advertising campaign in 1991 in a course called Power Marketing and Promotions. Now, he gave me that course, the text, because he wasn't going to promote it anymore. So I wrote a book called The Free Cheese Secret, which you've seen the cover of.
Yep.
And in fact, I'm releasing it shortly.
Awesome.
But really, the free cheese is really, and I hate the word magnet that they're using these days. And I am going to get back to your question, which is how I got started. I'm sort of answering two things at once. Okay. But, the giveaway or the freebie, what people call a magnet, lead magnet today, it really is the right way to do marketing.
Mm-hmm.
The problem with understanding that is it's not taught in business school, and it should be. And B, they don't really know what the back end of their marketing is. So you write a book, you don't write the book to make money. And people go, huh? That's right. Yeah. My book is going to lose money. An awful lot of it, actually, because I'm going to use it in my ad campaign and I'm going to give it away. And obviously I'll create a following, and then people will start to follow me. And, there'll be a lot of things in the back end. A direct selling company, I can pop them in if they're looking to make extra income, Elementor Pro page builder for their website and web hosting or whatever. Yep. I mean, you guys know how to do that.
Yep.
Whatever the back ends are without getting into them. But the way that I got started was I saw Tom's course. And this really comes down to me going to an international convention for the direct selling industry in Las Vegas in November of 1996. And I was so broke when I got there, I didn't even have a ticket to go in.
Oh, wow.
I figured that I would hang out in the hall and make contacts, build my contact list. And, I was just so hungry that I was willing to do anything. And I was hanging around there, and I met a guy who just died this year by the name of Rod Cook. Who was the MLM watchdog online for a long time. Pretty interesting guy, a little bit nuts, but anyway, Rod, yeah. Oh man, great heart. Rod heard my story about how I was going to start a website. Chris, I thought that the way websites would make money and a magazine for the direct selling industry would make money is advertising. And that actually isn't correct. So he heard me out and he said, you got to talk to Tom. Now, I didn't know who Tom was. So I guess my face must have went crestfallen. I'm thinking I'm finally talking to somebody who might be able to plug me into a whole handful of advertisers, make me a ton of money. And all he came back with is, you got to talk to this other dude. So I'm in front of a dude and he's saying, oh, you need to talk to this other dude. So I guess my, face went down and he goes, no. And he waved his finger at me. And you got to see this guy, 6'5", big baritone voice, right? No, he goes, you gotta talk to Tom. I was like, to this day, I could not write a book report on what it was he was convinced I needed to talk to Tom. If I'd never had to talk to Tom, it would be impossible for me to explain why. I just knew this guy thought I should talk to this other guy, and he was pretty, I don't know, emotional about it, I guess would be the right way to put it.
Sure.
Yeah.
So he had this passion. Says, okay, I will. So I got back from down there, and he mentioned to me that Tom was going on a cruise, and that cruise ran for 20 odd years. It's now switched. It's no longer in November, but moved to March. And Art Jonick runs that. You may know of him.
Yep.
And he wasn't going to be around, so call him later. And so that slid into January. I phoned Tom 25 years ago, this coming January.
Okay.
And Tom said to me, the way you make real money is not the way you think. So that converted into, your customers are worth more than you think, which was my report I wrote 22 years ago, which applies to that guy cutting grass you just mentioned in the local area and how you approach that person. Your customers are worth more than you think.
Yep.
I just found out isn't something you can use 25 years later, but I found out that, your customers are worth more than you think. And that means that you can make a lot more income without having to spend even a penny on advertising or anything else. In other words, not increase your overhead whatsoever. Would it be okay if I shared this with you, just so you have an option to make more money from the work you've already done to build relationships with your customers? Now, if you ask that question of a business owner, a small business owner that does have customers, they'd be out of their flipping mind not to pay attention to you.
Yep.
Just like I would have been out of my flipping mind not to pay attention to Rod Cook in 1996. And, the best thing I ever did in my life was phone Tom Schreiter in January of 1997. She asked me how I got to where I was, how I ended up with, 1.5 million opt-ins. It was just the beginning of 2006 that I crossed that line.
Sure.
That's how I met Tom, and he taught me power marketing and promotions. And what power marketing promotions really is how to use free cheese to build a list, how to use the giveaway or the sample, which also converts into all those courses that you've seen and those funnels that you've seen, which is really a self-funded advertising campaign. And Tom didn't invent it, but he learned about it and started to really go for it. And in fact, in that 1991 course, he was talking about how direct marketing companies often cancel the sample size and they're shooting their own foot off. It's like strapping a shotgun to your leg and blowing your foot off every single day, because the result of giving those samples away is some of the best sales you get. The people that buy your whole skincare line or your whole vitamin line or whatever it is, right? So, and whenever I'm now meeting somebody who's involved in a brand new direct selling company, I always ask them, is there a sample size? Invariably, the answer is no. And that means that the corporate people that are running that company don't know marketing.
Right.
So sorry for the long answer.
No, that's great. That was a lot.
That was brilliant. I love it.
Yeah.
There's elements of LTV in there, a lifetime value. There's elements of, ad, like making sure that you don't lose money on ad spend, right? So that you can always increase. You got an ROI right off the rip. Like that's
how much advertising would you do? How much advertising would you do
infinite
if it didn't cost you anything?
Yeah.
It's infinite, right?
As much as you can, yeah. Well, and that's something that's really interesting that, even to this day, there's a lot of marketers in every industry that preach the sample, right? The free cheese, the lead magnet, the giveaway, whatever we want to call it. There's a lot of them that still preach that, and they're the ones that people look at and they go, no, that's old school. And it's like, you know what?
No, but that starts with the abundance mindset, right?
Right.
And that's right where it all begins.
Yep. The reality is nobody's mailing samples anymore. No. So if you mail samples to people, and let's say you mailed 100 samples a month, you'd be inundated with what happened because no one's doing it. Right. You'd be the only one sending that skin lotion or skincare or whatever you were sending. You'd be the only one doing it because everybody's using lead magnets. They're all online. And the problem with the lead magnet is, how do you sell a product from it? Right. You can sell an intangible from it, but you can't sell a tangible. So product sales don't happen. And the best people you ever end up with are people who fall in love with the product. Yep. They don't go away. Ever, right? I can show you a business report right now, 20 years old in May of this past spring, 20-year distributor. He's got hundreds of people from the first year, hundreds from the second, 19 years ago, hundreds from the third, 18 years ago, and on and on and on and on. And these people don't go away. Why? Because they love the product. And we're all online battling each other with a lead magnet to try to sell some fancy, version of power marketing and promotions, basically from 1991. I mean, Dillard just friggin', got exposed to one of the old time advertising guys. He started marketing it, and a bunch of them found out about it. And, bada bing, bada boom. There's been a craze in the self-funding advertising campaign. But if I was to do it today, I would rather do it with skin cream.
I believe it.
Or shampoo samples, or, whatever I could get a sample size of that was relatively inexpensive. 65-cent high-end, shampoo and conditioner samples sent to women, right? So you advertise on Facebook, I'll send you a sample. All you got to do is give me your cell phone number and your address, and I'll mail it to you. Well, that lead's now going to cost you what? $3?
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
$4?
And you got a boatload of information on them too to be able to hit them with some other stuff.
Correct. And what are your other backhands? If we're doing a master class now, how can I say to you that I don't have to sell a single product to that person to break even on that ad campaign, so I can do an unlimited number of it? And I'm talking about not only the postage, the envelope, the sample that goes in it, whatever else I put in there, the time to put them together, everything. How can I, let's say it's $10 by the time I pay a production house to ship them for me, so that the addresses automatically go through my system and automatically end up in their database using, let's Zapier, for instance, and, direct into their system through webhooks or whatever, and they pick it up and they process them once a day, and it's $10 or $11 delivered. I don't lift a finger. Mm-hmm. How can I break even on that without selling a single customer, because if I can, when I sell a customer, I'm not chasing credit card bills.
Nope.
Okay. And that's the key. So if you ask me, what would I do today? Well, I would do something that everyone else isn't doing. And samples are nearly dead as a lead generation method. So, and yet it works. So do you want the answer on how that pays for itself?
Well, yeah.
Of course. Yeah, of course.
Okay. So in marketing, we ask the question, who else sells to our customers? So if I've got really high quality, fresh leads, who can I sell them to? My competition?
Yeah.
Sure.
Other marketers.
Right? Somebody who's got a related product, but not the same.
Yeah.
How many times can I sell them?
As many times as
Anything you
different
want.
products are out there.
Right. So now your competition will pay for you to do advertising and be happy to do it too. And every time I drop one of these, you've got the headline of one of my ad campaigns.
Yep. Yeah. No, that's the other thing too, right? Is, now we're dipping into, traffic, right? We're dipping into how do people get traffic to their offers? And, some people call them solo ads, some people call them email blasts, whatever. But if you're a guy like in your case, you're a guy that's got, 30 million plus contacts in your list, and you find somebody who's just starting out a brand new company that has, a product that's never hit the market before, something that's hot and new. I would not be surprised if you're right on their heels going, hey, wait, before you go out there, let me tell you what I've got that I can help you reach so many people. And now you've done advertising for yourself as well as them doing advertising for their deal. And you're sitting back with basically nothing you got to do except let them convert your leads for you.
That's called playing Kingmaker or Queenmaker.
Kingmaker.
Yeah.
Yep.
So when I ran a big lead generation company in the late 90s and early 2000s, that's what I did. I can tell you the number one income earners in the world that I know pretty well. I played Kingmaker with them, and I made a lot of money doing it. And so that's another thing. That's another game to play in the marketing world. But if I was starting out today, or anyone was starting out, by the way, you guys should be keeping your ears to the ground, because if you run into anybody who needs high-end data, well, I sure know how to turn them on to that. And we can make some money together. But separate of that, if I was starting out in the world today, I would just take that low-end sample, run an advertising campaign in one of the women's groups, and set up a fulfillment house. In the beginning, I would start by mailing my own packages out, maybe do 100 a month, and just follow them up. If you had 100 people that had your product samples and you sent them a text message saying, hey, I just mailed you a sample of skincare cream or skin lotion or, shampoo or whatever it was, high-end shampoo. I know you'll love it. Hey, send me a text message when you get it, right?
Right.
It arrives in the mail. Well, who's ever done that for them?
Probably no one.
No one. Yeah. So you're going to stand out. How many of those people are going to take your phone call when you text them and say, listen, let me phone you, because I know you're going to love that product, and there's some other products that work with that product, and I'd like to make sure you know about them.
Yeah.
And I've got an incredible offer for you as well. So you get them on the phone, you can turn them into a customer of the direct selling company, and you can turn them into a distributor as well. But the great thing about this is you don't have to deliver product. You don't have to take orders. You don't have to do customer service. You don't have to listen to customer complaints. You do not have to deal with returns. You don't have to deal with chargebacks on the credit card. You don't have to deal with any of the headaches of business, and you get paid.
Yep.
Direct selling company deals with all that. You just get paid. that means you can go float on your sailboat, make a few phone calls every day to people who got samples.
Yeah, man.
And the toughest decision you got all day is which type of fish at the market in St. Thomas you want to buy that was caught that morning. You know what I mean? Or whether you're
Absolutely.
going snorkeling and going to catch your own fish or not. You know, that's
I
it.
think you're
Right?
teaching everybody to fish right now, pal.
Yeah. Two types of fishing in that story for sure.
Yeah. Well, and I think that the powerful thing here is, you know, for people that are listening to this, watching this, whatever the case may be, is, you know, listen to the things that, you know, Steve is saying here. Is this is not just about the direct selling industry or the online marketing industry. This is every industry out there. Successful businesses use this exact marketing strategy. I mean, look at, for example, okay, let's take Cold Stone Creamery, for example, because I just had some of that recently, so it's on top of mind. And when you walk in, what is the first thing they ask you? They don't go, they go, would you like to try a sample?
Right.
Would you like to try the product? And they just scoop it up and hand it to you. You don't have to fill out a waiver. You don't have to do anything. And you're already in the store. So what better way to get you to buy something than hand you a sample? Or Costco, you're walking around the store. How do they get you to buy that new thing they just came out with? They put a sample card out and they give you samples as you're walking around. And you go, wow, that's really good. And you know what? That happened to me this weekend. I was like,
Yeah,
that's really good. I'm going to buy some.
And then you want to know the other part about that doesn't get talked about a lot? What are the other things then that go along with that sample that you're going to need next?
Right.
You know, what are you going to pair with that thing that you got from Costco that was so good?
So that's what else can I sell them? And
exactly.
and the what goes with it, the second thing, where's the camera? Two things. The second thing is, who else sells to my customers? What else can I sell my customers? There we go. And who else sells to my customers? So it's two things, guys. And if you can master those two things, you will never, ever, ever worry about paying your advertising bills with your credit card. Ever. They'll pay for itself even before you get a customer in your own direct selling company or whatever it's doing. You write up, like, listen, this isn't new. I'll tell you how old it is. In the free cheese secret, time travel's been invented, right? That's the first page of my book. And you can't meet your direct relatives. So I go back to, to London, England, and 500 years ago. And I see the city when I get out of the time traveling device. And I walk into the city and there's a farmer's market, market square market going on. Yeah. And I can't help myself. I got to walk in there, right? Like, what did they eat back then? And one of the first things I see is a cheese vendor. And the cheese vendor is giving away samples, right? Like, that's 500 years ago. Marketing is not new. It isn't. Right. We can hype it up with technology, but you talk about being able to do family stuff. Here you are running a podcast, giving your son a hug. That's awesome.
Hey, that's the thing. That's the joy of this. This is one of the things I love about the fact that Kyle and I do this at home, that, we're both at our homes, is that I don't have to turn my kids away when they want to come down and give me hugs for bed, even if I'm on, like, and I don't want to steal the show or anything, but I just, I think this is really important for people to understand, is that even when I'm on calls, if I'm with a client, a student, a prospect, it doesn't matter. If my 5-year-old comes down and wants to give me a hug before he goes to bed, I don't care if I'm mid-sentence or they're mid-sentence. I'll say, hey, hold on. Can you give me just a minute? And I will give him a hug, send him off to bed, give him some love, and do that, because that time I never get back.
Yeah. That's why I made the switch. I was driving a Saab in a tailor-made suit, leaving the house at 6:05 in the morning to beat the traffic to get into Toronto, selling in my territory, stuck at the end of the day, having to wait till the traffic died down, often grabbing a bite to eat on the road, getting home at 7:00 at night, gone all day long. That was the way I was going to provide for my family. Well, you know, there's a bunch of problems with that, right?
Yep.
And one of them is all my dreams are out the window. Everything I wanted to do, like go on wilderness canoe trips. I'm a wilderness guy. I run whitewater rivers, wilderness rivers. That's what I do. And
That's awesome.
literally, I'll go anywhere in a canoe. So if you two guys want to drag your butts up to Canada, I'll take you on a mind-bending trip.
Let's
That's
do
just
it.
amazing.
Yeah.
And you can bring your kids. But the big thing that was hitting me was I wasn't going to go to a football game. And later on, it ended up being paintball. So we were talking about this earlier before the podcast started. And, you know, and then eventually the kids won the Canadian pro tournament. They were
Which is
Canadian
awesome.
champions in paintball. And it's not a big industry or anything, but it's very competitive.
Oh, yeah.
And very high speed.
That's a cool accomplishment, and you don't venture out and do the things that you did in life. That doesn't happen for your kids.
Yeah, I took them to every paintball tournament they ever wanted to go to. The other thing is, and I talk about this, when I got off rails in my life, and I didn't get into serious trouble. I wasn't like a bad kid or whatever. But when I stopped, you know, paying attention to school and, you know, and all that, you know, it was because my parents were both at work.
Yep.
So the appeal was to be at home, and you know, when they wanted to go somewhere, we said yes, and we had a van, and their friends would be in the van. So
That's
the
awesome.
guidance, even though they may not realize it, that they got from always having support around them, in my opinion, is massive. And they both turned out to be pretty amazing men. Not so much that I'm saying I was an amazing dad, you know, I was just there. I was just present.
Well, yeah, think about
and
it.
that's
Like,
huge.
they're not craving extra attention because they're getting it, because they're not competing
Right.
with your attention from work or
Right.
you know, you could even be there but not be present because other things are on your mind, right? Like we've all.
But if
been
I
there.
ended up being the national sales manager of Xerox, that never would have happened. And as it happens,
Yeah.
one of my friends who just posted on LinkedIn from my original job is the national sales manager of Xerox. And we were contemporaries. So at this point in my life, if I was still in that field, I'd either own a business, a dealership, or I'd be in one of the big companies like Canon or Xerox as
Sure.
one of the senior, you know, executive trainers or, you know, regional managers of some kind,
Right.
regional vice president, probably. What kind of life would the kids have had? I wouldn't have seen any of those graduations. I wouldn't have been at any of those water polo games, paintball games, graduations, schools events, none of it. So you tell me which life is better. Even if I didn't earn more money, I would say that it would have been better to do what I did do, but I did earn more money. So
Yeah. Yeah. It worked out in your favor for both
That's the
ways.
best element.
Yeah.
yeah, I mean, the second time I earned $1 million a year was 2001. That year, I lost $250,000. Can you guess how I lost $250,000 in 2001?
You know, I would like to say, you know, you always think of like the normal things, right? Like gambling or whatever, but I don't think that's the case. I would think that it would be something like maybe you invested into something that didn't go the way you wanted, but
9/11.
really?
Business dried up completely. Everybody was in shock.
Oh, I suppose.
My
Yeah.
marketing business tanked. I was on pace to do about 1.35 million.
Wow.
I did 1.18 the year before. I was right on pace for 1,350,000, roughly 300 to 350. I mean, it would have
Sure.
had to have had 9/11 not happen to know exactly what it would have been, but 9/11 killed, and it took a good 4 or 5 months before the United States, which was my biggest market, even though I'm in Canada, before people in the States started to get back to work and over what happened. And
That makes a ton of sense.
yeah, 9/11. So
I was in high school in 9/11. I'm not putting it together that like the world stopped for that long.
Right.
yeah, it affected a lot of things, mentally speaking. But to finish that story, that year I took 13 weeks off of work and made over $1 million.
Nothing wrong with that.
It's the way to do it for sure.
Yeah.
Take us back for a second, Steve. What was like so you talked about like wanting to be there for your kids or whatever, which is awesome. But was there a particular moment at that corporate sales job that you just like it snapped for you and you're like, I'm just leaving, I'm doing this other
Yeah.
thing?
Yeah, this guy rear-ended me in a traffic jam and gave me whiplash. And I mean, I was sitting there breathing in the fumes of cars stuck in a really bad traffic jam. And then some idiot tried to go flying up the side strip median or whatever you call it.
Shoulder or whatever, yeah.
Yeah, and he swerved to dive in to a spot that had opened up two behind me, hit that car that hit, I guess the guy, just as he was swerving in, had sped up or didn't even know he was there. Knocked my car about, it's like an accordion. You stop and start. Right. There was a bit of a gap in front of me too. Maybe he was going for that gap. I don't know. But, we both kind of sped up at the same time. And so when I got hit from behind, it knocked my car about 40 feet forward, 45 feet. There was the cops actually measured it. They actually took him away in an ambulance. The whole front end of his car folded up. He went down as he was braking. The front end went down, and he went under the bumper of the car.
Oh man!
There's gasoline on the road that he ruptured the tank, but it didn't blow up. I don't know how.
That's crazy.
It could have been way worse.
Yeah.
But I got bad whiplash, and I couldn't go to work for a while, and I had to get a chiropractor to work on me, and it took a week and a bit before I was okay. And it was during that period when I was sitting at home where I was thinking to myself, this is nuts. I'm choking on the fumes of cars to make a buck. There's got to be a better way to live. I'm leaving at 6:05. If I left at 6:15, I'd hit the traffic. 6:15, 6:20, I would hit the traffic, and it would take me an extra half an hour to get in. So, we used to go drive in and have breakfast at this restaurant, which was right next to the office, and then go to work, and we'd all be sitting at work at 8:00 in the morning, having already had breakfast, and not face the traffic. So, yeah, that might be what really got me. And there was a lot of pressure too, quotas and stuff, unnecessary psychological bullshit at work. Let's put it that way.
It was probably less psychological bullshit than for you to jump out on your own and just like, I'm already used to the pressure.
Right.
What's the difference?
Yeah. Being an entrepreneur actually seemed easy.
Yeah.
But then I got lucky. I mean, I was, kind of broke because I had expenses, and I was kind of broke. And like I say, I didn't even have a ticket at the MLMIA convention in 1996.
How old were your kids when you went out on your own?
I married her, so they were her kids. I don't know, 6.
Okay.
6. I mean, it's a young family.
7, something like that. Then we started dating, and then we bought a house in 2000, I think it was.
Okay.
I paid that house off in 4.5 years.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah.
15% per year more and 15% per month more. It was just under 5 years, and I paid that completely off.
That's the way to do it.
Yeah, we bought 13 rental properties. We were dumping $5,000 a month into the stock market. all kinds of crazy shit, totally crazy. Had an email marketing system that cost $35,000, rack mounted servers, in a co-location, and co-locations didn't even exist really, as a name,
Right.
and we were already in them. So, server running in my partner's house with 12 lines running into it. He bought a new house and he had a backup generator, and Strathmore, Alberta, the power went out. And he said, it was the coolest thing last night. I said, why? He said, my house was the only house with lights in the entire city of Strathmore, Alberta.
That's hilarious.
Yeah, but when you got to keep your servers running, you got to keep them running, man.
He went and started up the jetty, and of course, the server was the one thing that furnace, the server, some lights, or your fridge, whatever. He didn't have everything on it. He said, but my house was the only one. And he said, where I live is on a hill, and I've been there, so he is on a hill, so he could see that the whole city was
like a beacon.
The only thing that was lit up was the ambulance services in the cop shop.
And that's something to really touch on there is when it comes to running a business, you got to have backup plans, right? You got to have things that you can do that you don't completely stop when things happen. And I think this is a good opportunity to reference what happened last month with Facebook and Instagram and, all those services and different internet providers that went down and went wonky, and just, everybody was claiming it was like Y2K 2.0, it was like everything just went nuts. And those of us that have email lists just laughed. We just sat back and went, what are you guys worried about? And they're all like, my business is down. It's like, then you're not running a business. You got a hobby, guys.
I got 36,000 leads from last year. Okay. 36,665. I looked at it today.
That's awesome.
36,665 leads I personally generated last year. Not for my clients, my leads.
Your leads, yep.
I don't care if anything goes wrong to Facebook.
Yeah.
If Facebook, LinkedIn, Instagram, Clubhouse, and you name it all went offline, TikTok, it wouldn't do nothing to me.
I hope
now I wouldn't be able to run an ad on Facebook,
right?
But I don't need to.
No, and that's just
what people keep missing it though, man. When you run a business, right? So you run a traditional brick and mortar, right? You're still 4 places that you're marketing. You're marketing to new business. That's obvious, right? Okay. You're marketing to your internal team. Most people miss that one. Right. You're marketing to onboard new employees. Most people don't even think about that as a marketing channel. But then you're marketing to your current customers.
Right.
Those are the people that are going to make you the most money.
Current and past customers. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Your list, right? The people that have bought from you before.
That's your premium list. That's the best list you got.
Yep. They've already bought from you. They already know, like, and trust you, right? You've already spent the money to acquire their information. So,
yeah, the devil you know is better.
An email, Steve, with a good offer.
The devil you know is better than the devil you don't know, right? So,
absolutely,
they're going to deal with you before even if you had a problem. Listen, if problems happen, it's just an opportunity to make it right.
Yep.
So if you're providing something to someone and you're late providing it, or it isn't what they thought it was going to be, or whatever, that's an opportunity for you to win them over even better by making it right somehow or another.
Yeah. And those are all opportunities too, internally from your business to get better, operationalize a part that wasn't so smooth, right? So the next that opportunity allowed you to serve additional customers in a much better way, and then you can win that other one back, and they're wow, my feedback mattered, right?
Yeah. If I could increase my profitability by a simple $500 a month, I could say hire a virtual assistant to send text messages for me. Today, I happen to have sent them myself. But imagine if I hired somebody in the Philippines to send 600 text messages or 700 or something a day, and I was working those leads. if that was important to me, I'd get more than enough presentations in a day to build a direct selling company, and or more than enough presentations a day to play Kingmaker, to use my database to help people be successful in their direct selling company, or more than enough appointments a day to resell the lists that I've already created so that my competition will pay for my advertising, and they're only too happy to do it too, right? Like,
Yep.
So the profitability is there if I can take each little piece of it. And actually, that's the way I wrote the free cheese secret. So once you got one piece of the puzzle, then you could take that and you could pay for somebody to do some of the stuff you were doing the work up from before, and that frees you up to do what you're really good at, which is getting customers, really, or getting new customers, new business, new distributors, whatever business it is.
Sure.
I talked to, right here, just behind me, 2 blocks over, is a girl who had a real estate show on TV. And so she's a guru, right? And real estate agents talk to successful real estate agents.
Yep.
And they think that makes sense, right? How many real estate agents can teach a real estate agent what a self-funded advertising campaign is?
Probably none.
Not many.
Hardly any. So they're addicted. I think this person, knows it better than you do. They're addicted to the idea. Now that comes, Tom Schreider talks about this.
Mm-hmm.
So that is confirmation bias, right? So,
Right.
Cognitive biases exist. And it's really a thought that comes from the subconscious mind. And that subconscious mind's the elephant in the room that's invisible. Right? It's always there. You can't see it. And we're all biased to support the ideas that come from our subconscious mind. But the subconscious mind's it isn't designed to reason. It's
Right.
designed to do this.
Yep.
Next. Decision. Clear the slate. It doesn't think. That's what your cognitive brain is for.
Right.
Right? So people are saying things. Here I am talking to this girl, and she's just, like I say, literally behind my back. If I could walk through the house and through the one behind me, I'd end up walking to the back of her yard, right?
Sure.
And she, I was talking to her, and this is 2 years ago or something. And I was saying, well, we could set up something, and run some classes to teach people how to do real estate investing. She goes, well, that's been tried. I says, yeah. So the real estate agent marketed a class to teach people, right? And got people in the room, right? And I said, and basically all they did was do a seminar on how to make money in real estate, right? Yeah. Yep. And that's basically it. So they spent too much on advertising for what came back from the return. Is that right? She says, yeah. I said, yeah, we got to sit down because there's a better way to do that.
Sure is.
So who else sells to my customers? Well, the mortgage broker sells to my customers, right?
Yep.
And you start ticking it off. Does the direct seller sell to my customers? If the people don't have enough income to qualify for a second mortgage, and they can get their income up by $1,000 a month, suddenly they qualify for a second mortgage, yep. Right? They can do the real estate investment. So you got to build a direct selling company just so you can make money off of real estate investing.
Right.
But does the real estate agent know that?
No.
They have no clue.
Yeah. And that goes into, when you think about, for example, people that want to bring somebody into a seminar. So we'll take the real estate investing, right? And to go back to your earlier point where you talked about the, situation of having a freebie, a lead magnet. So
free cheese, man.
Yeah, the free cheese, right? So you give them the free cheese and you say, hey, guess what? For $5, we're going to give you this 50-page report on the top 10, investing opportunities for real estate. And you've funded your advertising right there because people are like, I want that. It's $5. I spent $5 on coffee. And then the next thing they see is how about you go to this seminar and we'll go ahead and we'll just, get that rolling. And the next thing you know, cat. So,
That's
the thing is,
we call this one Tank. Sorry, guys.
Tank. Nice. That's awesome. But yeah, so I mean, that's the thing is people that don't understand that concept and they don't understand of, if you give yourself a way that you can have a positive ROI on everything you do. And for a lot of people, that's right on the front end. A lot of good marketers and a lot of big businesses out there, they make that money back right off the bat. Now,
and what would work better? What would work better, the PDF or mailing them a nice cover with a course on, how to make money in real estate? What would work better?
Mailing by far, because the thing is they get it in their hand. Right. And then they're more likely to want to read it. It's why when I was working with another friend of mine and he sends me his book.
There you go.
He's like, hey, you got this contest. Instead of sending me a PDF, he sends me a physical copy of his book. And you know what happened after that? We got on a call because now I'm like, I read his book. And when he says things, I listen.
Yeah.
And if it was a PDF, it'd be still sitting in my folder on my computer called books.
Yeah, you download it and I'll get to that, right?
Yeah.
But the extra cost of now, can we get the printer to run an advertisement in that publication? Can we get the mortgage broker to run an advertisement in that publication? Can we share the costs? Can we sell the leads of people who are looking for real estate investors to the local direct sellers? Can we? And it goes on and on and on. By the time you're done, your ad campaign doesn't cost you a penny, and you're mailing it to their door, which nobody else is doing. Right. And they're actually reading it, and you're creating a better following as a result.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
And this is where I plug me, by the way, smilingsteve.com.
Yes, absolutely. Which
at the core, what you guys were just talking about, though, is an offer, right? And a lot of people just don't think outside the box on offers. Like, I have this thing; it's real estate. Well, think outside the box a little bit, and what kind of value can you provide to the people to make your offer irresistible, right? Make it so great that they can't say no, right? Yeah. And it doesn't have to be something ludicrous, It can be something completely simple, like a little bullet pointed PDF.
Yeah.
And I love that. And then you just layered in mailing it to somebody. Sure, your cost goes up just a tick, but who cares if you're getting a better return or response?
Well, yeah, you can sell advertising in it, for instance, which you couldn't have done very easily in a PDF that was downloaded.
You just rattled off 5 income streams on one thing before your main thing.
Right, which is selling real estate. Right.
Yeah.
That's and they all talk about in the seminars. They talk about and look at the return and right. BNI. You guys have heard of BNI, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
So Leah had a fellow from the BNI here yesterday, and they were talking about real estate investing. I said, well, what you really should do is buy the real estate, and 20 years later, refinance the real estate back down. You've nearly paid it off. Basically, it's been paid for by your renters. You made a little bit of money, but the real value is the gain in capital that you make through other people paying off your loan, which is a mortgage. So refinance the mortgage, put it back in the position it was in before, put a little bit of money in the house to keep the maintenance up from that refinancing. You pocket the rest. It was borrowed against the value of the house. It's neither capital gains nor income. There's no tax on it whatsoever. And that applies in Canada and the U.S.
Yes, sir.
In the U.S., if you flip in the U.S., if you flip your real estate to buy bigger real estate, they'll let you get by with having the gain. But you can't ever take cash out. Well, that way you can, because you're borrowing against the value of the property.
Yep.
And so, as I said to him, it's better off not to sell the property when you go into retirement. You're way better off holding on to it,
Absolutely.
Then there's no gain. You never pay gains tax of any kind. The reason why the stock market goes down in the first week of January is when there's a bull run is because that's people hold on to their stocks till January. So they got a whole nother year to pay the tax.
Yeah.
Well,
and your point there, actually, a good friend of mine who's in real estate, he said something that was really interesting. And he said that there's two types of investors that make a ton of money. Is you have the policy investors and the real estate investors. So you have people who invest in like whole life policies and things like that, where they borrow against the value of their policy, but their policy keeps going up because they're not taking it out because you don't want to. You're just using it as capital, and then your real estate that you're borrowing against. And he said the reason why so many people they fail at real estate is because they think that they want to buy this building, make it look nice, spruce it up, and then sell it for 20-30% more than what they paid for it because they think they earned that. And then in reality, they only get maybe 10% more than they paid for it because of all the money they put into it. And now they have to pay on all those gains, when in reality, what he said is, he goes, the smartest, and this is something that I do believe that he has this down, and it goes right along with what you're saying, is don't sell the property. But if you want to make it easy on yourself, you buy the property and somebody else manages it. So you don't even do anything. You just basically, you're the owner. You're the pocketbook for the property, and you have a different person that does all the work for you, that collects your rent, that cleans the toilets and fixes the toilets, or not cleans, but fixes the toilets, fixes the furnace, does the upkeep or whatever. And all you're doing is you're going, hey, thanks for your payments, everybody. Appreciate you. You pay the guy a little bit, and then you're just building your wealth on the back end. Sure. And that money you borrow against that capital, it goes and buys another building that you do the same thing with, and just rinse and repeat.
Right. It's a great way to build wealth. But again, it all comes back to, well, I don't have enough money to start. Well, great. You know what? Let's get your income up a little bit. You only need somewhere between $1,000 and $2,000 a month of added additional income over and above what you're currently making, as long as it's in not a job, like as long as you don't take a part-time job, because you'll pay very high rates of tax on that. If it's a home-based business, you're able to write off maybe about $10,000 a year in expenses with your home-based business. That means you can earn $10,000 without paying additional dollars, without paying an additional dime of tax.
Right.
And that 10 grand a year, or, if we could get it to 15, you're going to qualify for a second mortgage or your first mortgage. Now, what most people do stupidly is they'll buy the house, move in and inhabit the whole thing, and increase their personal expenses. If they could move into the basement for a while and rent out the top for a few years, then they'd have enough money to buy another property that was fully, a real estate investment, and go from there. But it all begins with understanding we've got to focus on increasing their income. And it's pretty easy using some pretty simple marketing techniques to get to, a couple grand a month. And, I did it here 3 years ago just to prove the point. I jumped into a direct selling company. I told a bunch of people I could do this, and this. I said, look, I don't have a lot of time, but I'll prove my point. I jumped in. 9 hours later, I had a check for $691 in my first month. 14 hours in my second month, and I had a check for $2,511. So there's now that's Canadian dollars, still more than 2,000 US.
Right.
In the second month, roughly about 20% less value in a Canadian dollar at the time. So call it 2,100, or just over 2,000 US.
Sure.
$2,000 US in 60 days. And that would be enough for most people to be able to begin to invest in whatever it is they wanted to invest in.
Absolutely.
As long as they were wise enough to realize they had to get their money to make money before they started increasing their own personal overhead.
Yep.
Nailed it there.
Yeah, there's a couple I know really well, and actually he passed away, unfortunately, choked on a piece of steak and died.
Ooh.
But I was coaching them, and I said, well, we can get your income up. There's no problem with that. And, we want to work on getting you $1,000 a month, then work on getting you $2,000. It won't take long. I mean, we're going to do it part-time. We're not going to kill ourselves at this. We'll get there in 3 to 4 months. No problem. Here's the plan. Here's what we're going to do. We're going to do samples. We're going to do this and that. I'll work with you a little bit and make sure you know what to say to people. And, I go to meet with them again. And the first question they had for me was, can we buy a bigger house? I won't want to ask you something. Can we buy a bigger house? Now, they lived in a townhome complex. The problem was they couldn't put even a tree in without getting permission. They didn't like it. So they didn't like the fact that neighbors weren't up in their grill, telling them what to do and what not to do and all that crap. Yeah, well, suck it up for 3 more years and you'll buy whatever house you want.
Yes, sir.
But if you make that extra money and go and purchase a bigger home that's fully detached, where you're
right back to square one.
Your neighbors still tell you what to do when you do that.
Yes,
you get a fence problem or something. But that aside, you just increased your problem. Your monthly problem is your overhead, your personal overhead. Kind of out of rich dad, poor dad, isn't it? But their story was interesting. They were losing $50 to $100 a month on their income, and they were using their line of credit, and they were basically using the increased value of their home like a bank, remortgaging the house every 5 years, taking the value out of the house to pay off the line of credit, which was by then maxed out after having spent $100 a month more than they were bringing in. Now they want to go and buy another house because I teach them how to make $500 or $1,000 a month. Like, can we buy a bigger house? Here's a gun, put it up against your head, shoot yourself. That's stupid. Don't do it that way. Delay your gratification. Sorry guys. I don't mean.
No, you're good. You're good.
No, but I'm sure you had that conversation quite a bit with people.
Yeah.
Like it all reverts back to mindset.
It does. Sure. Yeah. If you can, the ultimate, speaking of direct selling, it's the ultimate form of delayed gratification. I mean, they don't pay you everything that's available from the commissions, the profitability. After the company takes its profit and the product's paid for and the shipping's paid for and everything's paid for, what's left over, let's say it's 50%, you get 7% of that.
Right.
That's massively delayed gratification, isn't it? Right. I mean, you created 49% profit or 50 from the sale of getting a customer, and you're going to pay you're not paying yourself, they're paying you, but ultimately your efforts are paying you 7%. So really the reason why is because you earn from the efforts of other people. And so that's leverage, time leverage. You can make money while you sleep and all that good stuff, residual income. But that is the ultimate form of delayed gratification. Residual income is the ultimate form of delayed gratification. And it's the same in real estate, but you've got to be willing to bite the bullet for a couple of years to get there. And, that first year I started that company, I paid myself $44,000, exactly what I could live on, not a penny more. Yeah, I went to the movies and stuff, but you know what I mean? I had a pizza here and there, but I didn't do anything exotic. The next year, the following year, my income was $446,000 because I was able to take a little bit of the profit and invest it into buying a server and put a fax on demand system together, collected the data that was coming in from people who downloaded the documents and sold it. And I couldn't sell the fax on demand system to anybody. My partner's going, I really tried. And he's talking to me. I said, leave it with me for a couple of days. I phoned him back. I said, I know what to do about that fax on demand system. And he said, what? I said, we're going to give it away for free. He goes, what? Yeah. Free cheese, right, guys?
Yep. Free cheese.
16,000 people signed up. Now, every
Love it.
one of those people we're trying to market their business. So where are we selling the list to? Right back to the people that created them.
Yep. Absolutely.
Right back to the people
Yeah.
that was
Genius.
fun.
awesome.
That was. And,
Oh my
we're sitting
God.
around laughing about it when you realize what you've created, right?
Absolutely.
There's lots of stories about that. But if I paid myself everything I could have paid myself in that first year, that fax on demand system would not have been installed. Now, I mentioned the Wayback Machine right in the beginning of this. If you go to Internet Archive, right, archive.org, if you go there and look at networkmarketingnews.com and you look right back around, say, 1999 or 2000, you'll see a product on the main page called the MLM Launchpad, which I sold to people in direct selling companies. It had lists and my training and all this stuff in a package. When we first put that together, we decided to sell that package for $495. Now, it cost me a little bit of money to put I got the space shuttle lifting off, and got a good photo, and it cost me a bit of money for graphics and that, not a lot. And, cost me some money to do a fax to get people to look at the offer, but we were selling nearly 400,000 names. So people were calling us, and then sometimes they had to call it, a couple of members of their team and have a conference call with us, and we answered questions, and it went on for a couple of weeks. When we were done, we sold 96 copies of that product for $495.
That's all right.
48,000 gross, $47,234 net, including postage and the person to mail them out, who was an employee.
Gosh. Steve,
And
I would
that,
love to just pick your brain some more, man. This is beautiful.
let me tell you something. That one offer paid for the fax on demand system.
Yeah.
And that fax on demand system made me, I had 47 months of $100,000 worth of income in a row.
Nothing wrong with that.
Yeah. And it was all because of learning Tom's secrets. And I think if you spoke to Tom had 3 or 4 people who really got what he was teaching. And I can tell you who they are. I know them. Michael Deloe.
Mm-hmm.
I know who they are. So names are not coming to my head right now.
That's okay.
It's getting late. We get it.
Yeah. But the point of that story is, if you spoke to Tom about it, he'd tell you I really got it. And I'm not trying to tell anybody I'm the sharpest pencil in the box. I'm certainly not the dullest. But so the point is, understanding how marketing works isn't rocket science. Anyone or most people, and most people being the phrase that's, really, really cool, can learn this. But they've got to go way back in time to 1956 and take a page out of a book by Earl Nightingale. And I say page, it actually was an audio. Originally recorded on LP.
Wow.
Because the first audio cassette, didn't come available until September of 1963. And the reason why I know is I just wrote a blog post on it.
That's awesome.
In 1956, he recorded Lead the Field, and he suggested that if you would just take 1 hour a day, in 3 years, you'll be an expert in your field. In 5, at that time, he would say you'd be nationally renowned. Of course, with the internet today, you're internationally known way before that.
Yeah.
But you would be mastering that. You go from a coach to a master, if you like to call it that.
Sure.
In 7, you'd probably be the top expert in the entire world in your field.
No, that's right. And that's one of the things, I've heard that story before. I've listened to the audio a while back. I should go back and re-listen to it because it's really good. And you're right. If you just take a little bit of time every day and just study your craft and study the things that you want to know, eventually, you know, you're going to surpass everyone else around you. And there's very few people that will stick with things that long to become that good.
Yeah.
And those that do, those are the guys you see at the very top doing what they love to do. And they're the ones, like you said, that are selling all that back to everybody else because they get it. So we are coming up on we're hour and 15 minutes here.
Coming up, yeah, we blew past that hour, buddy.
Time has just breezed by. And so take like just a couple minutes, and you know, you've got a lot of good stuff, but what's in the future of Smiling Steve? You know, what is it that you are coming up here that you're trying? What's the next big thing you're doing?
Well, I've just got challenged on my site. So anybody going to my site, the homepage looks like it's finished, and actually it is. But the links from the images that are on the homepage, the recordings and the blogs I'm madly working on them. And one of my friends from high school said, you know, the problem with your website is, you know, it's not clear what you do. You know, you've got to. You know, you got to apply the goldfish principle. You got 6 seconds, right? Or whatever it is for people to understand what you do. And so I redesigned it a week ago, and I've been working like a mad dog on that. So what I'm going to do, remember I told you 3 years ago, I jumped into a direct selling company ostensibly to prove my point.
Right.
And be able to tell the story. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to start proving my point on giving away mailing stuff. You know, mailing out very good copies of my training and mailing out samples of the direct selling companies, you know, skin cream or shampoo. And I'm going to start to vlog about it, you know, do YouTube videos and show the numbers. I'm going to actually pull the curtain back from the wizard and say, here it is. You know, if you want, you can, and I'll even do some live recordings of me actually working in a direct selling company. Not because I need a direct selling company. At this point in my life, I could just teach and not do any of that. Right. But if I do it, then people can't, you know, I can tell them until they're blue in the face that because the world's all gone online, that, you know, mailing samples and mailing things out to people is the way to go. But, they're apt to think, well, that doesn't work anymore, when in fact it works better now because nobody's doing it. So I'm actually going to prove it. So the future of smilingsteve.com and me, you know, Smiling Steve, is I'm actually going to put my money where my mouth is and prove it and record it and put some really, really high quality training together about what worked and what didn't work. So people can skip the trial and error and go right to what works. But I caution everybody who's watching this, who's listening to me, that if you are going to do marketing, you're going to feel some pain. And the pain is going to be understanding what eyeball grabbers are, you know, how to write a headline, a little bit on writing copy. You know, creating content is not for everybody, but sending skin cream out to people's for anyone. You know, giving them away when you meet people in Publix for anyone. You know, my company allows me to give you this. It's fantastic. I see you got dry skin. All you got to do is send a text to this number, and it'll pop me a note. And the company allows me to give it to you. Now, that is a crock of baloney. You can give it away if you want, but if you don't get the data, how are you going to be able to market to that person?
That's it.
Yeah, that's the key. You got it's a value exchange. It has to be.
Right. And if you try to explain a value exchange to somebody you just met in public, they're gonna run away from you. Yeah. So now I do it professionally, which means obviously I run ads online and I've got the back ends. But if somebody was doing that with people they just met, like trade shows, You ever been to a trade show and the direct seller has 47 products and they try to explain them all and they're foaming at the mouth and the poor prospect just trying to get away from the booth? You know? Yeah. Yeah. And you sit there around the corner and just watch it and you're snickering because you know they've got no clue.
My dad and I went to the North Dakota State Fair earlier this year to go see Billy Idol, of all people. Dude's still touring. It's crazy. But and yeah, you walk into like their indoor shops and I mean you see them like every other stand was these, you know, these direct sellers out there selling their products, and you know, they had them all laid out on the table. They're like, try this and try this, and you feel it. But there was one that stood out, and the guy I forget, it was like oils and stuff like that, you know, and he was just sitting back in his chair and he was chilling there, and he's just like you're sitting there right there, Steve, right? Arms crossed, just chilling there. People come up and said, oh, what's this one? He goes, oh yeah, that's such and such. It helps with like headaches and whatever. And he was selling them like crazy. And the reason for it is because he would tell people, he'd be like, oh yeah, here, try this. And he pulled these little itty bitty bottles out, and he'd go, here, try this. You can keep that if you want. And they'd smell it and they'd put it on and whatever. And they'd be like, yeah, that's really good. I'll take one. Because he wasn't.
That's really good. How much is it?
Right. You know? Exactly.
Here's the old story. Listen to this now, you guys. Guy goes to door, knocks on the door, holds his hand out when the person answers the door with some kind of product, then pulls a sign out of his pocket. I'm mute. If you're interested in the product, I'll turn the card over and give you the price. And the person looks at it, reads it, and says, okay, how much is it? And he turns the card around and the amount's on there. If that's all he did, he'd sell product.
Yep.
So the point of that is to explain that it isn't the talking we're doing. It's so
get out of your own way.
Get out of your own way. Start to understand that decisions are made like this before you're finished talking about how fantastic your company is and all the products are. The people who've already decided to run for the hills.
Yep.
You know, 6 seconds in, 8 seconds in, they've decided to run for the hills. So, you know,
they didn't show up for a webinar that day. Like,
nope.
Right. I don't know how many people back in the day. Back in the day, I used to invite people to hotel meetings. I don't know how many of them never showed up. If I had a simple 1-minute presentation I could have done on the spot, a lot of those people would have gotten involved. And when I stopped taking people to meetings, I got 5 people in 1 month.
Yep.
That happened to me. That's a real story. In 1989, I sold 5 people $1,000 each of water filters in 1 month. For a year and a bit, I've been taking people to hotel meetings and got no one. You know, it's like a Tom Shredder story. Too stupid to quit, right? Anyways, listen, guys, we could be on here for a long time. I'm sorry. I mean well.
Hey, don't apologize at all.
Tons of value.
All good. It's been amazing. You've given tons of value. You know, I don't care what anybody says out there. Here's 2 things. Number 1, it's our podcast. We'll go as long as we need to. But number 2 is when there's good things being shared, the time, I mean, yeah, it can seem like it gets drawn out and it can go on forever. And, you know, we obviously don't want to let it go too long, but at the same time, the value is there, and that's what matters. And that's why it's important that people understand that when you look at some of these episodes and they're over an hour, if it's fluff, we'll cut it up. Like if there's a lot of BS in there, we'll cut it up. But we've yet to do that except for 1 episode, and it was technical difficulties only. There's never been a single episode that we've had to cut up because there's always been value.
Good guess you're inviting. You know, have you ever noticed something? Really successful people, when they share secrets, they're little known facts, not jealously guarded techniques. Right. They're just little known. So secret when you're listening to somebody who's really successful, secret's just something they know that you don't.
That's right.
It's not something that they're trying to keep from you, and
Yeah,
that's because there's unlimited, there's limitless abundance. It'll never run out. There's no such thing as, a direct selling company, recruiting the last person. It's not possible.
No.
right. Well, I heard something the other day in an audiobook I was listening to. They said, to your point, Steve, there's not some super fancy super secret sauce. They just execute the basics consistently better than you.
What did Jim Rohn say? Life is success is just the execution of simple disciplines or something. That's not it. It's something like
that was the gist of what this guy was saying.
continue
do the simple stuff well consistently.
Consistent execution, of relatively simple stuff. Hey, if you can say it in 1 minute, it can't be that complex. Kids learn more in order to be in a grade school play at Christmas time.
Yeah,
for the parents than we need to know to be successful in direct selling. And I don't mean mentoring. I mean approach, presentation, recruit. That's or approach, presentation, sign up a new customer. It's a bit part in a grade school play. So why are so many people failing?
Just because they're not doing the work. They're not staying consistent.
Making it too complicated.
Yep. So awesome. Well, thank you so much, Steve.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, this was so awesome. Everybody who's listening, smilingsteve.com. That's the website. For those of you watching, it's at the bottom of the screen. Excuse me. And go there, check it out, learn more about Steve. And
I guarantee you that website over delivers.
Yeah.
And right now, because I ripped it apart, there's a bunch of it where there's some dead links and stuff. I wasn't able to get it done for today. But if anybody opts in, I will notify them every time I fill one of the links in. It'll probably take me about 2 weeks because I'm active. So if I stopped doing everything I was doing, I could do it faster than that. But I'm very active. And pretty soon I'm going to start announcing that I'm going to be doing those tracking the day in the life of an average direct seller.
Absolutely. No, that's going to be awesome. Yeah, I'm looking forward to that. So, and then that's going to be on do you have your YouTube channel up already, or is that coming?
I do, but I'll link all of them from the blog on the site. So in the notifications, so nobody needs to worry about it. If they'll just go in there and opt in anywhere, or even send me a contact note. The bottom of every one of the blogs has an opt-in form, but
which it should.
If they send me a contact message, I'll make sure they're opted in, and in the next couple of weeks it'll be finished. But thanks, guys, so much for inviting me on your show.
Yeah, no, thank you so much as well. Again. Yeah, it was so much value. It's so awesome. And until next time, guys, those two dads with Smiling Steve, and we'll catch you on the next episode. Have a wonderful night.